God bless you, my brothers and sisters. We are continuing our 40 Days of Decrease series, and today is day 15, and we are fasting from self-protection. Our scripture text is found in John chapter 15, verses 18 through chapter 16, verse 4. And I want to encourage you to take the time to actually read through the scriptures for today, and then to take time to pray at the end of this lesson. Again, today's fast is from self-protection. That is one of the earliest instincts that we learn. Long before we can articulate fear, we know how to guard ourselves from pain, from rejection, from vulnerability. And over time, what begins as a necessary survival response can harden into a spiritual posture. We learn how to stay safe, to avoid exposure, how to minimize risk, not only in relationships, but also in faith. But Lynn invites us to examine that instinct carefully. Day 15 asks whether our commitment to self-protection has quietly reshaped our discipleship. It presses us to consider what happens when following Jesus leads not to comfort, but to resistance, to misunderstanding, or even loss. Self-protection is the impulse to shield ourselves from discomfort, rejection, or harm by withdrawing, concealing, or controlling how much of ourselves we offer. Spiritually, self-protection often shows up as guarded obedience. We follow Jesus up to the point where the cost feels personal, visible, or risky. To fast from self-protection is not to pursue harm or to ignore wisdom. It is to refuse fear as the primary decision maker of our faith. It's the choice to remain faithful even when obedience invites exposure, misunderstanding, or opposition. Jesus speaks candidly to his disciples, saying, "If the world hates you, that it has hated me before it hated you." These words are not abstract. They are pastoral preparation. Jesus is naming the reality that faithfulness will not always be met with affirmation. He explains that allegiance to him creates a new orientation that the world does not always welcome. Discipleship, he says, will involve exclusion, resistance, and misunderstanding. Yet Jesus does not offer these words to frighten his followers, but to steady them. He speaks so that when resistance comes, they will not be surprised or silenced. Jesus also names the temptation to retreat. They will put you out of the synagogues, he says, acknowledging the social and spiritual cost of discipleship. The danger is not merely persecution, but self-protection. The urge to shrink back, to stay quiet, or to blend in to avoid consequence. Self-protection then feels reasonable. It tells us to preserve ourselves, to manage perception, and to avoid unnecessary conflict. Yet the gospel consistently invites believers into a different posture, one shaped by trust rather than fear. Jesus does not promise insulation from opposition. He promises presence in the midst of it. And throughout scripture, faithfulness is marked by courage rather than comfort. Those who follow God's call rarely do so without cost. Yet self-protection tempts us to negotiate obedience, to follow selectively, and to limit our witness to what feels safe. Here's the heart of day 15. Self-protection may preserve comfort, but it diminishes witness. Fear-driven faith cannot fully reflect the courage, truth, and love of Christ. And Jesus tells his disciples these things. He says, to keep you from falling away. Falling away doesn't mean abandoning the faith outright. Sometimes it means retreating inward. That's what it means. It means being quieter, smaller, less visible than obedience requires. And so Lent confronts that retreat and calls us back into courageous faithfulness. It trains us to loosen our grip on safety, It exposes the ways that fear subtly governs our decisions and invites us to trust God beyond our instinct for self-preservation. By fasting self-protection, we learn to remain faithful when obedience costs reputation, comfort, or approval. This season reminds us that security is not found in hiding, but in abiding. God does not ask us to be reckless, but he does call us to be courageous. Today's fast invites honest reflection. Where have you pulled back to avoid discomfort? Where have you remained silent when faithfulness required speech? Where have you limited obedience to protect yourself from risk? Today, I want you to choose one situation where fear has shaped your restraint. Today, I want you to practice faithful courage in that space. Speak truth in love, remain present instead of withdrawing, and trust God with the outcome rather than managing it yourself. Hear your reflection questions as you prepare to pray. Where has self-protection shaped my discipleship? What fears most limit my obedience? And what might courageous faithfulness look like in my current circumstances? God bless you, my brothers and sisters. Again, read through the scriptures for today. That's John 15, verse 18 through chapter 16, verse 4, and then take the time to pray. God bless you, and we'll see you on day 16.